get thanked, but it's my pleasure to introduce our main guest today, Congressman Frank Wolf. He's the representative for Virginia's 10th District and has served in that office since 1981. He's the most senior of Virginia's 11 congressmen. But before we hear from him, I'd like to just state that Congressman Wolf has agreed to take questions, to speak for 5 minutes, and then to take questions from the audience. I would ask that you provide the congressman with questions rather than statements, because we're going to limit your question to 1 minute. We will limit your question to 1 minute. So it's good to get right to the point. Ask a very pertinent question, please, since there will be a limited number of people that will get to ask questions. In order to accommodate the greatest number of questions, we will require the questions and the answer at that point to be 1 minute each. Would somebody volunteer to be a timekeeper? We have one volunteer. Okay, you have a watch? If we didn't get a volunteer, I was in trouble. Okay. Let's give Congressman Wolf a hearty Tea Party welcome.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation, and as many of you know, and as I spoke to President Washington, George Washington's first elective office was in our Congressional District. He was from Winchester, Virginia, and the first time he ran, he lost, and the second time he ran, he won, I think, only by 7 votes, so it's good to be here. And I can identify because I lost my first time in 1976, and then I lost my second time in 1976, and then won in 1980. In order to keep within the time to the best ability, let me cover just 2 basic fundamental issues, and then when the question and answers come, hopefully I can elaborate more. I have, and not only speaking as a congressman now, but as a father of 5 children, and as a grandfather of 15, I have never been more concerned for the country than I am today. I could get into the first issue, which we could talk for 10 or 15 minutes, but economically our country is broke. If we were a business, we would be filing for bankruptcy. If you look at the situation very quickly, we have a $13 trillion debt. We will have, under this administration, a $1 trillion deficit for the next 10 years, or for as far as the eye can see. In 15 years, every penny that comes into the Treasury, every tax dollar that comes into the Treasury, will go for either entitlements or interest on the debt. There will be no money for cancer research, no money for Alzheimer's research, no money for Parkinson's, no money for infrastructure, no money for national defense, absolutely nothing else. In 2013, Lord willing, all of us will be around, Moody said we may very well lose our AAA bond rating. If that happens, the dramatic negative impact that will have on the country will be very, very devastating. Our 2 largest bankers are the Saudis who funded all the radical madrasas up on the Afghan-Pakistan border that quite frankly led to what has taken place in Afghanistan, and many of them, Saudis, were on the plane with regard to 9/11. The other is China, which I won't try to get off too much of a tangent, but China today, being the largest banker, has 30 Catholic bishops in jail today in China, has several hundred Protestant pastors today in China, has cyber attacks against us. As some of you know, it was in the paper, my computer was totally stripped by the Chinese government. They are bankers, and I think that's fundamentally wrong. We see rising unemployment. Our manufacturing base is eroding. If you get on the train in Washington and take it up to New York City and close your book and close the newspapers, look to the right and the left and you'll see the factories are closed. And if anyone is from the Trenton, New Jersey area, there's the bridge over the Delaware. It said Trenton makes, the world takes. Trenton really doesn't make anything anymore. The manufacturing base has eroded. To deal with that issue, I have the leading bill in with Congressman Cooper. We have over 115 co-sponsors to take every spending program there is in the government, and this was helped drafted by the Heritage Foundation, Stuart Butler, and require a bipartisan commission that takes 1 year to hold public hearings around the country, listening to the American people, explaining precisely where we are, and then at the end of that year, using the language which is in the base closing commission language, the so-called BRAC language, requiring, and this is the key word, requiring that to be an up or down vote by the Congress. Now, if you saw a couple months ago, the President set up his own commission. The problem with the President's his commission is the following. One, it is not authentically bipartisan. I believe it needs to be authentically bipartisan in the numbers. Secondly, there are no public hearings involved in theirs. We have aggressive public hearings, required to be public hearings in every part of the country. Third, we have ours been voted on in the next Congress by members of Congress who have to get elected. In the President's Commission, if there is a vote, there's no guarantee that there be a vote, but if there is a vote, it will come up in December of this year, when there will be many, many lame duck members of Congress. Lastly, to give you some interest, they say sometimes if you want to see someone's commitment or where they are, look at their checkbook to see where they. I mean, if you look at the difference, the President has given his commission, the Simpson-Bowles Commission, a budget of $500,000 with 4 full-time staff people to look at the whole government. An example is in the last 2 or 3 months, this administration has spent $23 million in trying to ratify the Kenyan Constitution. No basis to even be over there, but $23 million with regard to that.
Let's give him more time.
Well, let me just start. The other question is, and hopefully you'll ask me, is the issue of terrorism. This administration has failed. They want to send Khalid Sheikh Mohammed to be tried in New York City, which will cost $250 million for every year he's there. And Massawi was in Alexandria for over 4 years, so it will cost $1 billion when there are 2 good courtrooms down in Guantanamo Bay. One other thing